So welcome everybody. So my name's Scott Winter with the Collaborative Commons. I'm here with my good friend Giovanni Triseri.
Yep.
Yes, and he's with the North Valley Community Foundation. I want to use a bit of this time just to kind of ask Giovanni to introduce himself to the Commons and the work he's been doing with the fire recovery here in Butte County. So how you landed in this thing?
Yeah, so prior to the campfire, I was doing a lot of community development work, kind of just community engagement, working with different organizations, really bringing people together to make important things happen. When the campfire hit, the North Valley Community Foundation, which has been a home to me on many fronts, became this philanthropic hub for the campfire recovery efforts. Essentially, we became that repository of a lot of funds and donors coming to us and saying, can we use these funds in the best way possible? So we became the steward of these funds for the recovery efforts, and we're about $75 million right now.
Wow.
And our role really is to work with community partners on the ground to, in a collaborative way of how can we not just recover from the campfire, but thrive in a way that we've needed to do for generations, really.
Right. So what have been your biggest takeaways? Because I know you and I have done a lot of work together in the past. In fact, it was that we did a radical collaboration course, and the last day of that training was when the campfire started, and there you go. You kind of moved right into the work of facilitating and collaborating.
Well, if you remember that day, so it was November 8th, 2018. Right. We did day 1 and 2 of the collaboration workshop. Day 3, we couldn't even get going. Yeah. That we started hearing the reports of people fleeing the fire. We saw the wind outside and saw how dangerous it was going to be, and just didn't imagine how tragic it really would turn out to be. But what I go back to that training and that radical collaboration every single day since that. I think it's just starting with that collaborative intent piece of making sure that we're in a room of people who are intending together to really to work in a way that is going to be completely different. We knew that the scale of the fire and the tragedy that hit our community had to be met with an equally immense scale of working together that our community hadn't seen before. So using some of those tools, I think for me completely the self-awareness piece of as you're in a room, kind of doing a check-in constantly, because there are times where people will say things that or there's leaders can be toxic, and then when you're in a trauma situation and they're just already they were on edge before, and now they're on edge here in the red zone to begin with. How do you start having those conversations of moving this community into a space of recovery and resilience that we don't know how to do? We didn't know how to do.
Because I just got back from Australia, and they're dealing with some really interesting dynamics as well. What would you say is like the most critical component to, because I think we're going to see more of these types of events. We're going to be dealing with some existential challenges in our future, and to kind of move into a collaborative space in terms of, we do a really good job preparing for disasters, but I don't think we do a really good job transitioning from coordinating a disaster recovery event to then giving it back to the community, which is really what your role has been of giving and empowering the community. And so those skill sets around knowing where we're going together, knowing that we're in it together, and hopefully doing it in advance of a crisis, because it shouldn't take a crisis for humanity to show up. So how have you been able to or what have you discovered about yourself and about community in general in terms of tapping into the collaborative intent?
Well, I would go back to what you were saying before, as far as doing a good job of preparing for disasters. We do in some ways. I mean, we've got, we're sharing information, we're notifications, those types of things, and those things are still lacking. We've got it, but building the capacity of leaders in a community before a tragedy happens to work together in a way that is effective, is thinking about the community as a whole, the common good, shared goals, those types of things. If we had that as part of a disaster preparedness thing, that would prepare us to meet the disaster. So what happens is most communities like ours start at a place, kind of a deficit of leadership capacity that I think then we have to learn this on the fly. Now, a disaster, I think the first 2 to 3 months, you will see people work together on an amazing way. People will leave kind of their toxic, mindset, and really faced with a disaster will, I think, step up. And it's been amazing to see people step up in ways that they didn't think they could do. And then it goes into from a coordinated response to now we've got to be thinking, how are we actually going to rebuild or reconstruct, put together a health care system. We lost a hospital and a lot of doctor facilities, and so how do you not only do that, but then do it better than it was before? And in order to do that, you're going to have to go from a coordinated leadership model to a more collaborative leadership model.
No. Yeah. So in that, I mean, thanks, we just got dogged, right? But the one question I would have is, with that, if there is a bit of advice for future communities, around that preparation, and, what is the 1 or 2 key concepts that you would want to kind of convey to them? Because I think you have a ton of wisdom that, not that I want to wish that experience on anybody, but it was thrust upon you in the North Valley Community Foundation. So in addition to that preparedness on the front end, is there any other kind of key insights that you would share with them to help them think, especially around the leaders and the community members that?
Yeah, I think it goes around a little bit what we were talking about, what I just was saying about the difference between coordination and collaboration. That's one distinction. I think that we even create collaborative, around certain issues, and we did that here in our county. But we thought what we thought was collaboration wasn't. And so I would say that one of the biggest lessons that I've learned is, if we could do that now for communities, to really understand what that is, really understand, because even people who are watching this probably don't fully understand. It's kind of, they like it. They're like, there's something about it, but to understand what that means, like, so everything from the point that I enter a room with other people, what I need to be checking in and bringing to the table, and understanding what I might have, what are my positions and what are the interests that might be shared in a room. So that is a big piece that I remember was with that radical collaboration workshop, that was an aha moment. We're just like, oh, there's some things that we can learn about how we work together in a deep way that that if we're not forced to, we don't take the time to do it, if that makes any sense.
Well, and again, I think you and I have had conversations about sometimes when we get stuck in these meetings, that you going from, we're stuck around arguing over the position, but when you think about it in a crisis situation, our interests are really similar, and that's why people do come together in a crisis, because the interest is survival. But now we're post-recovery, we're kind of in that recovery mode, long-term recovery. So what are those shared interests, and how do you bring all these different entities together to lay their cards on the table to say, here's why I'm holding on to this position, or what interests and where are the shared interests, so that we can really leverage our resources more effectively. Because again, I think I've shared with you, and community is this idea of, when demand exceeds capacity, that's when the stress comes in. And when we're collaborating, we're increasing our collective capacity to meet the demand. And if we stay in the positional mode, we'll never get past it. So I think, I look to you as a role model for really being a great steward of not only collaboration, but really practicing the stuff that we both teach. And I just really appreciate you giving me some of your time and being able to share it with the community, because I don't think that people really, they say collaboration, everyone's shaking their head, but to your point, they don't know what to do.
Scott, my master's degree was communication leadership. My thesis was on collaboration. I mean, I read some of the really good academic articles on collaboration. Right. And so for me, I think I had a pretty good idea of what collaboration was. Not until you go into this do you realize, that's it, until you have to live it,
right.
And you actually then not just give a part of yourself, but also withhold a part of yourself. And what I'm talking about there is just sometimes where this is sometimes even the red zone, green zone, where it's just like, oh, I'm just so upset about that, or like, gosh, I have the greatest idea in the world about that. Yeah. But until there is kind of a shared space, collaborative intent, where it's just like things can't really happen. I mean, it goes
so
from
how
the
have
paper.
You changed? I mean, what's been your big thing about your internalizing? What have you internalized the most then from your role, and to be better at a community collaborator?
That's a great question. Through the encouragement of friends like you and others, I would say, like, I didn't take a lot of time to be more self-aware or really kind of take care of myself. So doing some of the breath work, right, or doing some of those things that, I mean, I've been a person that has had a lot of things going on, and I've been on the go. Like, I like doing a lot of things. I like, hey, let's get things done. Right. But there are, for me, what I've realized is that there needs to be a time before going, on a regular basis, going in and just checking in of what's going on in my mind, in my heart, things that I'm saying before I say it. And then also realize, particularly because of the role that I'm playing in philanthropy. So when I walk into a room, I know that I'm not just bringing myself to the table, but and my organization. Right. But I'm also bringing a lot of funds that I've got to steward and resource. And so the way that I speak can't be just about me. Right. It's got to be, I've got to steward a lot of other resources.
Yeah, I mean, you're dealing with the interest of those who have given, and interest of those who are in need, with the interest of those who are delivering. I mean, there's multiple levels of interest, and your ability to be a steward of all those things, again, I think speaks to a tremendous amount of wisdom that I want to be able to continue to share. So I want to be able to circle back with you periodically and really invite the community to reach out and ask questions, because I think a lot of communities are trying to figure out how do we rebuild in a collaborative way. And so that the community feels empowered. I think I was sharing with you that the one cause of a lot of stress that people are feeling in this community is feeling helpless. And I think what you've been able to do is give people a sign of, hey, there is a role for you. You can be helpful. We have resources, because where you want to be helpful serves the interest of the community and the commons, if you will. So again, I appreciate everything you're about. Love you as a friend.
Love you. I appreciate your engaging in our community this way. I mean, really, we need these types of tools. So I appreciate it.
Awesome, brother. Thank you so much.
Thanks.